The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
I'm the guy putting the fly back into Marty McFly that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him. Yep.
Yeah, we're back with the thrilling conclusion of our 5-part Fly series.
Until we find the Fly 3 that went directly to video and was by Asylum.
Oh, God, yeah, I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. Nothing to do with anything. Just some random character. Bartok's Revenge or something like that.
Right, yeah. I was surprised, this being, the first one being a Cronenberg movie and then, a sequel getting cranked out with, most of the cast not coming back and everything. That doesn't tend to bode well for a movie, but, this is pretty effective. The body horror is well done. They really took a page from Cronenberg and kept going. It's
not quite as Cronenbergian though. It's close, but it's not quite there.
Yeah. There is one thing that I was like, wow, this is effective. This is really hitting me. We'll get to here before long, but for this time period and this kind of sequel, I would expect really just nothing to speak of. But this holds its own pretty well.
Yeah, and oddly enough, it is an interesting mash of the earlier Fly sequels. Mm-hmm. Did you notice that? The main character is named Martin from the third movie, has the Fly issues. Well, I mean, that's not a spoiler. We're going to learn that in the first 5 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
And kind of a little bit of, would you say Philippe? A little bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely when we get to the very end and we find out the magic word, there's definitely this sense of generational trauma and we talked about the original one that the whole thing felt like the Philippe arc from child Philippe to elderly Philippe. This obviously Martin just appears in this movie kind of whole cloth. He's not, the first Fly is not about Martin, but
no.
But I do think that Martin, what happens in the first Fly is definitely what's affecting Martin beyond the genetic stuff. He's definitely very interested in where he came from and what that means. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there is something about Philippe is all about carrying on his father's legacy and everything, and you definitely get that sense here from Martin.
Right, where Martin's trying to carry on both of his father's legacies.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to start this off with, we're going to hear some fly buzzing, and we open up on Bartok Industries. We're going to actually see the belly of the beast where we didn't see that in the first movie.
Mm-hmm. And it's really nice. We have the fly buzzing, and then we see a helicopter coming. So it kind of seamlessly transitions.
Right, but immediately Stathis is yelling at the doctors in order for them to help non-Gina Davis Ronnie. Right, Veronica?
Yeah, they try their best with having her with the oxygen mask and everything to try to
covering the face.
Yeah, but it's so clearly not Gina Davis. The actor playing Stathis is really the only returning actor we have. There's bits that we'll get with Jeff Goldblum. Some of it is definitely just pulled directly from the first one. There's a few little bits that I'm like, is this outtakes we didn't get, or did they actually get him to come in and record a little bit of audio just to kind of have some fresh stuff from him? But primarily, and Stathis is still a pretty minor character in this, but he's our only direct carryover from the first movie.
Right, and he does have an important impact, but like you said, he's not there for very long. But he gets in a screaming match with, we're going to learn her name's Dr. Janeway. She's not great.
No. Yeah, so we at Bartok Industries we have Bartok, the CEO, and then like the head doctor is Dr. Janeway, and those are like really our sort of central.
That and Dr. Shepard, who's a putz, and a guard who I didn't even bother learning his name because he's such an asshole. He's worse.
Yeah, I just called him Dick Guard the whole time. Like,
right, he's actually worse than Stathis, but not in the overly sexualizing women way. Well, he is that too.
Yeah, he's just all around like the worst scumbag kind of character.
No redeeming qualities, whereas Stathis was a scumbag, but he was also like, I actually do care. I'm still a scumbag, but I care.
Yeah. So we have, as you said, like we're obviously having the birth scene that was sort of implied by the first movie. Ronnie is screaming, Stathis is panicking, and Bartok is also there watching this all.
But he wishes he was notified sooner. He wanted to see everything happen.
So when Ronnie actually gives birth, it is this like, body horror, horrific. It's like a larva, basically. Like it's not a baby insect. It is like a cocoon, like pod type thing.
Right. So, her worst fears more or less happened. Right.
Yeah. And she, right after seeing this horrific thing, just dies. It's her last thing she sees on Earth is this terrible thing. And
at least it's not a butterfly baby. Anyway, yeah.
And then once she dies, the larva splits open, and inside,
it's
underneath a human baby looks totally normal. Everything's fine. I mean, he's covered in like this gross milky goo that looks like, android blood from Alien. And as soon as we see that there's a human baby, we go to credits.
We're going to learn that Eric Stoltz is Martin, Daphne Zuniga is Beth, and that's really it. Other than, what is it? Brian Getz, I think is his name.
Yeah, it's Stathis.
Yeah.
So after credits, we have Bartok and Janeway talking. Or they're in like a board meeting, and he's like, okay, so we're gonna obviously it's a experiment, but we're gonna treat this child as if it is my own child. It's not just a normal lab specimen. So
but Dr. Janeway's going to be mom.
Yeah, you all answer to Janeway. Janeway answers to me, and I answer to nobody but God.
Right. That makes sense with Bartok. Like, we already know his personality, right? Mm-hmm. He's just one step under God in his own brain.
Exactly, yeah. So then we have, like, a little later, Janeway and...
Almost a year.
Yeah, Janeway and Bartok are like talking about the data, about what's going on with Martin.
The kid's obviously way bigger than he should be at 11 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's astonishing. He's just growing so quickly.
Photographic memory, everything he everything he learns, he just absorbs knowledge like a sponge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a little frustrating because he's I think the mental age and the physical age kind of like being a little divergent. Like he's an annoying kid that the lab techs and everything are having to deal with, but they're like...
Well, Bartok even asks Janeway, he's like, do you like him? Do you like Martin as a person? And she's like, he's a clinical subject. So, no, there's a degree of separation between my emotions and this being.
Yeah. And Bartok's like, well, I think it's time that I met my son. And then we have, like, it's not quite a montage, but we have, like, several sort of really short scenes.
Well, we also get the introduction of the man in the mirror. The mirror will come back a couple times, and Bartok shows Martin a few magic tricks and says, you've got to know the magic word. That's what makes it happen.
Yeah.
You can't tell nobody, though. It's got to be secret.
So it's Martin is perceptive. Like he knows that this mirror, that there are people watching him on the other side. Like even as a child, he's very aware of what's going on. We have them talking. Then we see like the next scene is Martin, but like older, still a kid, but like a different actor at this point.
He's like on the cusp of he's a tween, right?
Mm-hmm. And we do this thing with the maze is super cool. Like there's like one of the scientists is like, "Come on, you just need to do this maze, and then I can leave you alone. Like I don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. Just do the fucking maze." And Martin is like working on something at the table while the scientist is holding the maze, and then Martin hands him a piece of paper that has a drawing of like a path through a maze, but without the maze.
The walls.
And so the scientist holds the two papers up together, and he has solved the maze without even having it in front of him. It's incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, but yeah, we learned that he's also invented basically Martin's important invention that he's working on is a helmet that changes his voice. And then Dr. Shepard's like, well, is that it? Is that all it does? And of course, Martin sprays him in the face with like a water pistol on top of the head.
Yeah. And then we have Janeway giving Martin a shot. They're telling him, they're really clear with him. Your age is accelerating. You have some kind of disease. You got it from your father. But it's, he was the only person who ever had it before you. So we're not sure. But this medicine is supposed to help with the metabolism so that you don't continue to age so rapidly.
Right.
So they make it clear that it's important that he gets this shot,
Yeah. And he wants to go see Bartok. He's like, hey, where's my dad? They're like, he's in zone 4. Martin's like, can I go there? Nope, you don't have clearance. You got to stay here. But he takes a quick peek at Dr. Shepard's badge. He's like, I'll remember that for later.
Yeah, and so the next thing we see is him, like, he's got a computer in his room. He hacks into the computer and, copies Shepard's access level codes into his key card. So now he has Zone 4 clearance.
Beautiful. Well done.
And we see him sneaking to Zone 4 by climbing through, the air ducts.
He does a Die Hard.
Yeah, but he's got his silly, sci-fi helmet on the whole time.
Right.
And when he gets to Zone 4, the first thing we see is, this plexiglass box full of flies. And we get this great bit where he puts his hand on the glass, and when he pulls his hand away, there's the shape of a hand in flies. They swarmed to something that they sensed something in him, and they swarmed to where his hand was.
A kindred spirit, if you will.
Yeah.
So then, Martin, we're gonna look. This is gonna lead to some of the saddest scenes in this movie, but also some of the best.
Yeah.
Martin then sneaks into the animal pens, where he finds a very good boy or girl.
Yeah, there's this. It's like a golden retriever. Yeah. And he lets this one dog out, and he cuddles with it, sleeps next to it, and he talks to this dog and is like, I have this accelerated growth center. He has nobody to talk to. Nobody cares about him, so he's just telling his story to this dog.
By the way, his disease is Brundle's accelerated growth syndrome, or as I like to call it, bags. This kid's got bags. All right. Anyway. Yeah. But he's going to age and die quicker than anybody else, basically.
Yeah. And we see a little later, a couple days later or something, Martin is getting his lunch, and he's sneaking little bits of food into a plastic bag and just, only eating half his lunch. So obviously he's getting a treat for the dog. But then we see when he sneaks into back into the specimen lab later, that cage is empty, and there's a little sign on it that says transferred to Bay 17.
Uh-oh. So we're going to see Martin sneak in to this experiment at Bay 17, and we see those wonderful pods. You know what that means. It's not going to end well for our good boy or girl.
Yeah. So, yeah, we see the scientists load the dog into one of the pods. Martin is, watching from, a hidden vantage point, so he's seeing everything happen. And it almost looks like he's, kind of up on a balcony, and it almost seems like the dog can see him. They both know this is getting ready to happen and that neither of them can stop it.
Well, he, barks at Martin for a moment.
Yeah.
At least once or twice, yeah.
So we see them try, do the teleportation. It seems like everything went well. They open the other pod. That we can see a silhouette of a dog, and they're like, "We did it!" And then suddenly, the dog springs out, attacking one of the scientists, and it is not the same dog.
Bites off his finger. Well, I mean, it is the same dog, but it's also not, right? Mm-hmm. It's not exactly turned inside out, but it's also not the way it was. The fur isn't long, it's short, it's curly. You know, something obviously happened in the transfer.
Yeah, it's definitely, you know, this is now like a puppet. It's no longer an actual golden retriever. It has mutated significantly.
Oh no.
And, you know, of course, Martin, seeing this, he screams and then, you know, gives away his position. All the scientists know he's there.
Everyone's like, how the heck did he get in here? Well, he's too smart. He's smarter than you guys, so that's it.
Yeah. Cut to Martin's 5th birthday.
/ 17th.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He is a 17-year-old boy, quote. It's Eric Stoltz. Like, this dude's like 20-something at this point.
Yeah.
He got fired. Was it here or would it be later that he got fired from Back to the Future? Like, he was the original Marty McFly.
Yeah. I think Back to the Future would have been before this, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because I feel like Part 3 came out in 89.
That sounds right.
The original came out in 85. No, the second one was 89. The third was in 1990. So we had a little bit of a lull between the first and the second, but then the third came out a year later.
Okay.
So, all right, there you go. But yes, Eric Stoltz was the original Marty before issues happened and he got fired.
So yeah, now obviously, and he's playing it again. He physically is Eric Stoltz. He's, you know, late teens, early 20s looking, but he's supposed to be 5 years old. His mentally, I would say he's somewhere in between that. Like, he doesn't, he's not acting like a 5-year-old, but he's not quite, like, he's kind of got a childish affect still. Like, he's not quite acting like a late teens person. Like, he's clearly intelligent, like, beyond that. Like, he's super smart, but in terms of, like, social interaction, like, he's still a little stunted. And so, but, like, so Bartok is, you know, of course, they do, like, the cake and the candles and all that. And Bartok talks to him, and he's like, what is your, you know, your birthday wish? And Martin's, you know, like, I just want privacy. Like, I have, you know, lived my whole life in this glass box with everybody watching me.
Right. So Bartok hands him a bottle and says, say the magic word, make the mirror disappear.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So he throws the bottle at the two-way mirror. It shatters. And then we see, clearly Bartok kind of knew this was coming and had plans in place. Mm-hmm. So it's not just that they're going to board up the windows. Bartok takes him to a, like, bespoke apartment kind of area on the facility. Like, it's, you know, there are no two-way mirrors. It's its own closed off area that this is now where Martin gets to live.
Yeah, still don't trust it though. If you're around a bunch of scientists and they give you a place to live, probably a good chance you're still being observed. But we'll find out if that's the case later.
Yeah.
Hint.
And Bartok also has a pitch. He's like, you know, you've been a specimen for 5 years, but, like, you've grown up a lot. We want to give you privacy, and also I want you to work for us. I don't want us to be working on you anymore. Like, you're brilliant. Join us. Help. You know, Martin's kind of like, what does that mean? And then we just cut to Bartok showing him the teleportation room and explaining the past, like explaining what happened.
Teleporting an apple, turning it into apple juice / applesauce.
Yeah, it just, you know, turns to mush, and he's like, you know, we've spent 5 years and millions of dollars, and we have the world's most expensive juicer. But he's like, you know, I've got a lot of the most brilliant scientists in the world on this, but we're like a bunch of chimps trying to operate a car. Right. But I think you could do this.
Because he's smarter than everybody else at the facility, right?
Yeah.
But obviously Martin has a little trepidation. And it's not just because of possibly what happened to his father, even though he doesn't really know that. It's more of what happened to the dog. Mm-hmm. And Bartok's like, hey, don't hold that against me. It was an accident that we were doing science on this dog, you know.
So, yeah, he says, before you make your decision, I have some tapes of your father that might help you decide what you want to do.
Yeah, of course. And they're specifically curated tapes, of course.
Yeah, obviously. So we have later that night, Martin watching these videos of, you know, so we have, some of this is definitely footage from the movie. Like, I remember word for word, but some of it I couldn't quite remember. I'm not sure. But we do have footage here of Jeff Goldblum in the, like, fly makeup.
Well, no, he's not in the fly makeup yet. Here he's talking about how he's improved. Like,
this is early footage of him. Like, he has teleported, but he's not
And I feel like this was made for this movie because, like, whenever he explained him being improved, that was directly to Ronnie. And then he would say the same thing to Tiffany, Tawny. Yeah, the other girl he had sex with that probably had a fly baby.
Yeah. That would be an interesting Fly 3.
Yeah. Nobody knew until it was too late.
Yeah. So Martin is sort of swayed by this, and we see he picks up a telephone off the desk and puts it in the pod, teleports it. It seems fine. He plugs it back in and makes a phone call. Calls the front desk and he's like, I need some organic matter.
Well,
and they're like,
it's like he's making a crate call, right? He's like, oh, by the way, do you happen to have any organic matter? What?
Yeah.
Who asked for that?
And he's told that like he'll have to wait until the specimen lab people get in at 8 a.m.
Right.
And he's like, okay, fine. So he starts walking around the lab just like trying to find some organic matter of his own.
Now we also see the security guards watching him. And the asshole security guards they play with their stun guns. So, oh no, this is Chekhov's stun gun. We know it's going to be used at some point. Mm-hmm. And the security guard's like, yeah, I can't wait till we give this to Bartok's little brat. It's like,
yeah,
really? You guys want to stun a kid?
Yeah. They're just awful, and they definitely have like this weird chip on their shoulders about Martin specifically. Like, right. They're definitely like they're jerks to other people as the movie goes on, but like. Particularly Martin, they just really hate him.
Yeah.
And so eventually Martin comes into this one lab and he sees this like weird disc on the ground and there's a fly on it. And he's like watching it, kind of trying to like sneak up on the fly, and suddenly it launches into the air, but he just grabs it like right out of the air. And then we see it's not a real fly. There is a woman bored practicing fly fishing in the lab.
Okay, cool. Everybody needs hobbies.
Yeah, so we'll learn her name's Beth Logan, and they immediately just have great rapport. They're just like, they hit it off right away.
It's so great he wants to take her cactus and show her what he can do with her cactus. And I mean teleport it. That's, yeah.
Yeah, and we get some similarities to conversations between Seth and Ronnie, where he's like, I'm working on the most important invention in history. Why don't you come back to my lab? I'll show you. And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, I promise it's worth your while. And she's like, I don't even have clearance for where you're going. And he's like, but I do. And if you're with me, you can get wherever I can go.
Yeah.
So he takes her to his lab and shows her the pods and teleports the cactus.
And it's not inside out, but it is definitely fucked up. I don't think this cactus is lasting too long.
Yeah, it's funny to have body horror of a cactus. Like, it is this weird, mangled, mutated thing. And she's like, cool, I gotta get back to work then, I guess.
Right.
And he's like, all right, well, will you come visit again? And she's like, yeah, I think I will. Like, why don't you hang on to that cactus? I don't need it anymore at this point, but maybe we can get together again sometime.
Maybe you could work with me too. Yeah.
Yeah, so she works the night shift, and she gets like a late night dinner break, and so maybe they can start hanging out during that.
Third shift sucks, bro.
Yeah. So she goes up the elevator back to her area and gets stopped in the hallway by the main asshole security guard.
Yep.
Or no, the security guard he goes and talks to Martin after she leaves. And
but he runs past her.
Right. Okay. Yeah. He's just a dick to both of them.
Yeah. He oogles her and tells Martin about how nice of a derriere the Beth has.
Mm-hmm. So then we have a little later Martin talking to some of the scientists, and we hadn't mentioned this, but one of the weird things is that Martin doesn't sleep. When they were talking about toddler Martin, they were just like, he never sleeps. Like, he's, that's challenging for like a young kid. But now as an adult, he was like, I slept a little bit last night, and they're like, really? Or did you just like lay there and like hope to sleep? And he's like, no. I think slept. I think my processes are slowing down. Maybe I'm like, peaking, and I'm gonna like be normal moving forward.
Right. They kind of share a knowing glance at that point. They're like, okay, maybe.
Yeah. So they go to give him an injection, and the needle breaks. Like, his arm is
he's so excited. He's like he's animated talking about both Beth and the fact that he went to sleep last night.
Yeah. So, and again, like you said, that when the needle breaks, they're just both like, "Oh, that's interesting. We gotta, we gotta write that down in the chart. That's important."
Well, Janeway's really shitty, and she's like, "Well, that's what you get for moving around, or not staying still." It's like, really? Jeez, lady. All right.
Yeah. And from there, we go into a montage of Martin and Beth, sort of like bonding over time. We have them.
Why the fuck is there country music in this? Is it me or like country western music? Does that feel like the most out of place thing here?
It did feel weird. It was like a slow country ballad.
Yeah.
We have them like slow dancing in his lab. We also see like just shots of them, working on, his science project, eating dinner in the lab, just falling in love over the course of, a couple, weeks or whatever. And then,
do you feel like Martin's a little autistic coded to a degree?
Yeah, that I guess when I said he seemed a little stunted, so that's definitely, he looks like an adult, and he has this sort of weird sort of way that he interacts with people. That yes, it is very much autistic coded.
Well, the reason why I'm asking though is not because of that. It's because Beth asks him to come to a party, and he goes to the party, and he's like just standing there, just like, okay, this is something. And he's just taking it all in.
I definitely I've felt a kindred spirit there, because she's like, there's this party, it's like a work party here in the office that some people in my department are throwing. You should come. And he's like, there's gonna be like people, and she's like, yeah, that's party, yeah. And he's like, okay, sure. And like you can tell, he's like, I'm gonna try this thing, but I don't like it. And sure enough, he's like, there's even a part like there's like several people having a conversation, and Martin just kind of like slowly moves over and is just like standing there. He's not part of the conversation. He's just listening, kind of nodding. And then they're all like, they're gonna head out to something, and like they all just walk off, and the one lady's like, good to see you, and bye. Like,
well,
nobody
I
knows
felt like
what
it
to
was
do.
more flirtatious. Like he's got Riz without knowing he has it, right? And they're like, she's like, hey, I see you.
Yeah. But so what they're talking about though is that there is one specimen here on site that is the longest running specimen, that they're just kind of discussing, like, this sort of novelty of this weird specimen we've kept around for so long.
Kept it living and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah. So after they all leave, we see Martin find his way to the specimen area. And again, from like a high observation deck, he looks down and he sees his dog, being fed, and it's, horrifically deformed, this weird Muppet thing.
But it still seems to recognize him as it looks up and just howls.
Mm-hmm. And we didn't, so like earlier, or when Bartok tries to hire Martin,
it tells him Martin didn't survive.
Yeah, he kind of apologizes for the dog, and he said, take comfort in the fact that it didn't suffer. It was very short, and it's an unfortunate part of our scientific work, but it did not suffer. So now Martin sees that not only did it suffer, it is still suffering. It's been alive for 4 or 5 years or whatever at this point,
right.
And in this sort of weird agony. And so, like, he's kind of like tearing up watching it, and as you said, the dog howls. It's just this really, heartstring pulling moment. And then Beth appears next to him, and she's like, right. Are you okay, Martin? And
Nope.
He's too upset. Like, and he doesn't know who's responsible, what's going on. He just wants to be left alone. He runs out in tears. And she kind of tries to chase after him, and he's like, no, we're done. Your clearance to my area is revoked. I don't want to see you again. Like, he locks her out. He's gone.
He's putting up those walls, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, later he's going to go down, and he's going to visit his dog. And I have feelings about this. So obviously this dog, I'm going to call it that because, even though it's a puppet, like, it sees him, and like, It almost growls at him to begin with, but then it notices him and it starts wagging its tail.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems happy to see him. So,
yeah.
Is it really suffering? Like, obviously it got fucked up, but like, it's alive. It's kind of moving around. It's not as mobile as it was, but
yeah, I did think so. Like, yeah, it does seem to recognize him and wag his tail and everything, but then like he kind of like sits down next to it and it lets him pet it. But it is kind of like whimpering and whining in a way that seems like it might be in pain.
Maybe.
Dogs are. I don't think he knew this dog long enough to like know its deal. Like some dogs do just kind of whimper when they're like happy or like it. It's hard to know what this dog's personality is, but I feel like the whimpering is supposed to tell us that like this dog is suffering. Yeah, but I'm not sure. But yeah, either way, like yeah, he pets it and sits with it for a little bit, and then with tears running down his face, he like pulls out like a rag that he soaks in ether and covers the dog's mouth and finally.
So I hugged my dog for like half an hour after that scene.
This scene, I was watching this, and one of my dogs was like in bed with me watching it, and when that dog was whining and stuff, she was like getting anxious, like hearing the whimpering and everything, and I was like pulling her close, and then he puts the dog to sleep, and I was just like, it's an affecting scene. It is really well done. This is the one I was like, this sort of like body horror puppet dog. They do a good job of like. It's horrific. It looks mutated. It looks bad, but it also
shows you there's the dog inside.
Yeah, like it's not disgusting. Like you still feel for it. You still like empathize with this poor mutated dog. Like I don't know. I was thinking about it. Like we've seen a lot of sympathetic monsters that are supposed to kind of tug at your heartstrings over the course of the almost 200 episodes of this show. I don't know if we've seen anything that really just like hit me like this. It was upsetting to if you had pets over, like almost all of us have had this experience where like we have to put a pet to sleep and it sucks. It is just the worst experience. So this just felt incredibly real and just viscerally painful. For this movie that you wouldn't expect a lot out of, having a scene that is this emotionally impactful is impressive.
Yeah, honestly. So then we're going to cut to Martin being naked, all naked, getting scanned into the pod.
Yeah, which, like, at first I was like, are you kidding? Like, you just had to put this dog down and you're going to teleport? But no, he's not teleporting. He's scanning his, like, gene sequence into the computer so that he can start thinking about what it would look like to teleport. Like, he's doing the smart thing here of, like, letting the computer analyze. This is... in the previous movie, like teaching the computer about the romance of the flesh. Like he's really putting his information in there so that he can make sure it's going to be safe before he does anything. Yeah,
he's running simulations before he does the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very smart.
Yeah, so Bartok comes in with Dr. Janeway and say, "Hey, Martin, there was a specimen we've had around for quite some time, and it died last night. Do you happen to know anything about that?"
And Martin's like, nope, I don't know anything. And Janeway and Bartok, they're talking to him over a speaker. They're like in the next room, and Janeway's like, he's lying. And Bartok's like, that's pretty impressive. I can't believe like he's our boy's growing up basically. Like he's proud.
Right. It's almost like she wanted to snitch on him and get him in trouble, but Bartok's like, no, he did. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. And so then we see a little later, Beth gets a note from Martin with a clearance card of her own.
And the magic word.
The note's just signed Abracadabra.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
We see her coming to visit Martin in his lab, and he's like, "Ooh, I'm glad you're here. There's something I want to show you." And he brings out a little kitten.
Aww.
Yeah, she's
That's
all
a nice
pedaling
makeup
with
present,
it.
right?
Yeah, she's and then he's like, "All right, now that's not actually what I wanted to show you, though." So he takes the kitten, and she's like, "Wait, what are you going to show me?"
He's like, "Oh, I'm going to teleport it." She's like, "Oh no."
Yeah, like no, you know that's not a good plan. And he's like, "Trust me." So he puts the kitten in a pod, and like he's standing over by the pods, and he just kind of nods at her, and she hits the enter key to actually activate the teleportation. And it works. The kitten teleports. It comes out, seems fine. Everything's okay on the other end. And she's like, "How did you do it? Like we've been trying for years and we haven't gotten there." And he's like, "Yeah, I had to start from scratch." Yeah, like I needed to do it like free of like the myopathy of science. Like
I feel like that's not correct. I'm just saying.
Right. I had to open my eyes to the beauty of the process.
Not just the flesh, the process.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he has a deeper insight than just Brundle's flesh.
Yeah, and again, after we had Seth Brundle having like the beauty of the flesh cut to them having sex. Here, the beauty of the process. Cut to them having sex. Yeah. So Martin and Beth, we have like a kind of short sex scene, and then the next morning she wakes up and has to go to work, so she's says goodbye.
But she pulls off the bandage that was on the wound with the needle. Why would you just do that? Like, was she checking on it maybe?
Yeah, it seems like, and sure enough, there's a reason to, because it's getting infected.
Infected.
Yeah, so this is obviously, again, like a direct parallel to Seth getting stabbed with the computer chip, and then that's sort of like the initial site of like the flyification of Seth Brundle. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you need to tell the doctors about this. Like, something needs to be done. And he's like, yeah, I mean, it's fine. I'll get to it.
Yeah, eventually. So
once she leaves, though, we see he gets on the computer and, again, is looking at his DNA sequence. And he queries, can the mutant DNA be removed from the subject?
And it can.
Yeah, if you just remove it, it would result in a complete dissolution of the subject, but it can be replaced with human DNA from a viable donor.
Right.
But the donor would have to like die in the process. They would have to donate so much of their unmutated DNA that it would ruin them.
So theoretically, Brundle's plan would have worked, but he would have killed Ronnie and his baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, that's fun.
Yeah. And so he's like kind of thinking about that, and he's like sort of messing with the infection site, but we see that like a familiar sticky goo is coming out of the infection. It's not an infection. He's turning into a fly. Yeah. And
Dr. Shepard's like, hey, let me give you your injection, Martin, so you can be, so we can help you out here.
Yeah. And yeah, he's Martin's like, but what's going on here? And Shepard's like, it's just an infection. It's totally normal. And Martin can tell. He's like, he's lying. This is he knows what's happening to me, and he's not saying. And then we see Bartok and Janeway discussing this information a little later, and they're like,
make preparations.
Yeah,
it's about to happen.
The metamorphosis has commenced, and it's going to go quickly from here. And
so Beth tries to get into her office the next day. Turns out you don't work here anymore. Congratulations, you've been promoted. You've been promoted to the other side of the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got a day shift job, and you're across the city. So your timeline is completely, it's not intersecting with Martin at all anymore.
Yeah, but because the security guard's so nice, he's like, here's a tape. This will explain everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he says that's what you get for fucking around with Bartok's pet freak. Yeah. Then he gives him this tape. And so we don't see what's on the tape. We cut to like later. We have Martin calling the operator, and he's like, I need an outside line. And they're like, we're sorry, all outside lines are currently busy. Try again later.
Right. Beth is trying to call him, and they're like, oh, that guy doesn't exist. He's not here.
There's no Martin works at Bartok Industries.
Yeah.
But then finally Martin does get an outside line somehow. He's smart.
He freaks his way out of it.
Yeah,
which is great.
So he does get a hold of Beth, and she's like, Martin, you got to be careful. Bartok knows everything. He knows about us. And Martin's like, he couldn't. Like we were so, we kept things hidden. And she's like, no.
There's a videotape of us in bed.
Yeah. So Bartok has cameras in your apartment.
Martin's pissed. He goes through the room just tearing everything apart.
Yeah, he's just smashing the shit out of his apartment. We see the security guards watching on CCTV. They do have cameras all over everything.
They're like, Mr. Bartok, he knows that there's a camera in his room somewhere.
Yeah, and eventually he finds one, like it's like behind like a speaker or something, and he smashes it. And they're like, Yeah, they let Bartok know we don't have eyes on him anymore. We don't know what's going on in there.
So as soon as they say that, though, Martin bursts into that room. He's like, "Get the fuck out!"
Yeah. Yeah, and so they run out, and he starts like going through like there's like a big binder full of like surveillance log information, and he's able to like pull up all of these videos on the computer. He finds videos of Stathis talking about everything, finds videos of himself as a child.
And then we got the last one, which is Fly Daddy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So he sees the videos of him and Beth having sex and everything. But yes, the last one, this is the one I was thinking of earlier, where we see Seth Brundle in the fly makeup.
Not the full fly makeup, just the splotchy fly makeup.
Yeah. And at that point, Bartok walks in and he's like, "Good. Now you know. We don't have to keep pretending anymore. All the cards are on the table."
Pretty soon you're going to be a unique being like your father. And Martin's like, "Well, isn't the medicine supposed to stop that?" Bartok's like, "That's just water. Complete placebo, dude. We're just messing with you."
Yeah, we've never had. There is no cure for what you have. We don't know anything about it, but we're going to test things on you now. This is our chance. Yeah.
Maybe we could have reunited you and your dog or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So Martin kind of like shoves Bartok out of the way and manages to escape the room. He's running through the halls. He eventually
he literally says to Bartok, "I loved you," because that was his father.
Yeah. So he eventually gets to like a front entrance kind of area. He's being chased by some guards, and then in front of him is that asshole guard blocking the only way out.
Yep, just gives him a straight punch right across the face. Drops Martin, but Martin seems a little bit more resilient now.
Yeah, and the guard does say, "I enjoyed that tape of you and your girlfriend." And he just kind of laughs. So
Martin stands up, grabs the fucker, and throws him through a window.
Yep. And then just strolls out the window himself now that he's cleared the glass out of the way. So he has now escaped out into the world, and we have Bartok, yelling at the guards, like, "We have got to get him back now. Like, he can't be out in the world."
He has his other scientists trying to get into Martin's computer.
Yes. But Martin has password protected it. It just says, "What's the magic word?" And they're like, "Bypass." And it's a bypass not available.
You got one more attempt.
Yeah. Failed attempt will result in tapeworm.
But yeah, it's basically going to wipe the system.
Yeah. So, they're like, what could it be?
It's abracadabra. That's the magic word.
Yeah, one of the scientists says that, and Bartok's like, "No, that's only Martin knows the magic word."
Right.
Yeah, there's one real. Yeah. So, obviously they're not going to. And at the time, I was like, Martin had written abracadabra on that note to Beth. I was like, maybe it is abracadabra, and that would be hilarious if that guard guessed it and then they didn't do it. And
oh yeah.
But we'll eventually find out what the magic word is. But first, we'll see Martin arrives at Beth's home. He didn't have anywhere else to go, and he needs help. Because
as he kind of does a B&E, she just hits him with a bat.
Yeah. And she's like, "What's happening? How did you get out?" And so he just kind of fills her in on everything that's happened, what Bartok told him and everything.
The meds aren't real. You need to help me.
Yeah. And then we just cut right to a bunch of Bartok guards arriving outside of Beth's house, and it's like, fuck, they're caught.
Yeah, we're going to have a standoff here.
Yeah, but once they break in, we see that, no, Beth and Martin managed to get out before this. Like, there's some amount of time has passed.
They're long gone.
Yeah. They're kind of looking around, searching the place for any kind of useful information, and then we see that Martin and Beth, they've gone elsewhere. They are knocking at a door, and we hear, a man inside yelling, telling them to go away. And then Martin says, "Seth Brundle was my father." And at that point, the door opens.
Yeah, it's Stathis. He looks out and he's like, the family resemblance is uncanny. By the way, though, is it me, or does this estate look like the estate from the original The Fly?
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah, I wonder if that was an intentional thing. Yeah, there's definitely some similarities there.
Yeah. So, but as Stathis lets them in, like Martin, is like, "Hey, can you help me find a cure?"
Yeah, he says, "You're my only hope," and Stathis is like, "I am nobody's hope."
You're shit out of luck if you think I'm your hope. The only cure that exists is a shotgun to your head, like your dad took.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's basically like, "I didn't like your dad. He sucked. He stole my girlfriend. I was not a fan."
He said he cost me an arm and a leg. The guy really bugged me. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love Stathis. He's an asshole, but I love him. He's a lovable asshole.
Yeah, in this movie especially, like he's got that sort of like hermit quality where he's just like, I just want to be left alone, but he's kind of forced into helping, and he, yeah, like he's kind of a jerk to Martin and Beth, but at the end he's like, take my car. They're after you at this point. They know what car you're in. My Jeep's in the garage. Here are the keys. Like
so once again, asshole with a heart of gold.
Yeah. So then we have Martin and Beth driving a little later.
Or at least Pewter. Sorry.
And Beth's like, I thought you'd figured something out. And he's like, yeah, okay, there is a cure, but I will have to kill somebody in the process. And I can't do that.
Also, though, as they're getting ready to leave in the Jeep, Stathis does say, hey, I think you know something. Mm-hmm. And if you know something, you have to use everything you know. Mm-hmm. Because doing otherwise would cost you your life. So he's almost a mentor. He's like, I know you know something just by looking at you. Yeah. So his journalistic senses are taking over, and he does help Martin twice.
Yeah. Yeah, so like it's clear like Stathis is like, I know that you know a cure and you're scared to use it because what it will mean. And I think Beth kind of picks up on that. So then while they're driving, they have this conversation, and Martin's like, yes, there is one, but it would result in a death, so I'm going to keep searching. Like, I can't do that. I'm not going to kill someone just to save myself.
Right. So they go to a no-tell-motel. Mm-hmm. And obviously he's a little, mutating right now. Yeah. So Beth has to go in to get the broom. And when she comes out, or she sees all points bulletin, basically, saying, hey, Martin Brundle is an escaped convict who's cost lives. Mm-hmm. Did they say he's killed some people?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this is obviously Bartok Industries, like, fake news bulletins sort of stuff. But the owner of the motel, like, sees it, kind of like clocks it. So Beth's like, fuck, this isn't going to work.
Martin does a runner.
Yeah, she sees him run into the woods. She runs after him, and he almost gets hit by a truck. I think he's trying to kill himself here. Like, he's trying to let the truck hit him. But
Not exactly.
Yeah, but then he sees, like, Beth is going to try to knock him out of the way, and I think he realizes, like, if I don't jump out of the way, Beth's going to die too. So he does not let the truck hit him, and she kind of like they kind of like fall there together, and she's like, please don't run from me, like, I want to help. And he's like, but I don't know how you can help. I don't know what to do. Right. And she's like, whatever it is, like, I will stay with you until the end. If that's what it is, if you're gonna die, I want to be there with you for that. Like, I want to be here with you. That's all that matters. Nice. And so then we see, like, a little later, Beth is laying in bed, and it's a pretty good gag. There's, like, it's a shitty motel with, like, one of those, like, old time bug zappers that's just, like, keeps flickering as bugs are flying into it.
Martin's just sitting there watching it. Mm-hmm. And his voice is obviously different. It's a lot deeper, more like synthetic now. Yeah.
So she gets up to check on him, and this again feels like an echo of some of the scenes from the previous movie. He's gone this whole process of, like, I want to stop this. I don't want to turn into a monster or whatever. But now he's in that acceptance mode where he's like, becoming a fly is what I want. This is great. This is really good, actually.
I'm actually healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's like, I feel better, I feel stronger, I'm full of power, I'm evolving.
She's like, you can't walk right now, dude.
Yeah, she's very worried about him. And yeah, so she's, like, we got to keep working, we can't give up. And he's just kind of, he starts, like, does he pull out his own eye? Is that what he takes?
Yeah, he says he literally pulls out his own eye, but there's a larger, like, darker one underneath, more like a fly's eye. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, if you stick around, I'm going to show you a magic trick you'll never forget.
Mm-hmm. So she runs out, and then we see, like, later Bartok and...
No, she calls Bartok. She's like, hey, here we are.
Yeah.
Come get us.
So, yeah, we see Bartok entering the motel in a hazmat suit. And at this point, Martin is like sealing up in a cocoon. There's just like, slime sticking to the couch and everything. And he's just kind of like in, like he's not fully covered. Like you can still see his face, but it's like it's sealing around him.
Well, he's in a translucent shell right now. Mm-hmm. So it whatever happened just sealed, basically.
Yeah. And Bartok, his first thing is like, Martin, what's the magic word? How do we get into your computer? That's all he cares about.
He can't talk. He can't talk right now.
Yeah, Martin, like, he acts like he's going to say something, and then he just kind of, like, passes out.
Right. And, of course, Bartok taunts him one last time. He's like, Martin, you're a magician. You're not an escape artist. Which, I mean, some magicians are escape artists. So, whatever.
Yeah. So then we see, like, back at the Bartok Industries lab area, we have Martin now in a fully sealed cocoon, laying on a slab, and they're talking about, like, this is the site of Martin's birth. This is, it's all come full circle. We're back here. We have Bartok and Janeway. They're talking.
Beth gets decontaminated, and the guards really love that for some reason.
Yeah, like, we like, you can tell she's naked in this kind of like decontamination chamber, and they're spraying her with something, but like, there's like steam and everything. It's, it's not really played for like sexiness at all or whatever. You don't really see anything.
She's definitely being tortured.
Yeah, like, and like you said, yeah, it's more about like us showing us that the guards are that awful, that they're really like loving this. And then we see a little later Bartok talking to Beth, and he's like, the magic word. Surely you spent so much time with Martin. He had to have told you. And she's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. While that's going on, Janeway is in the lab watching over the cocoon.
Right, with the activity spiking now.
Mm-hmm, something's happening in there, so she injects it with something.
No, she pulls out the liquid. She's going to test whatever's inside. Wouldn't this also just kind of mess up Martin? Because technically the liquid is Martin?
Yeah, I mean, that's how, the cocoon, like, it fully breaks down into a liquid and then reforms into the new thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously there's still something moving inside. Mm-hmm. By the way, this lady none of the scientists here have any, like, self-preservation instinct at all. Because she's still in that room without a security guard.
Yeah. Yeah, and the cocoon starts oozing, it starts splitting open, and then we have a fly monster pop out. This is similar to the fly thing at the very end of the last movie. Mm-hmm. It is some sort of large puppet thing. It is no longer Eric Stoltz.
Right, but it's less horrific. Like, it's more monstrous, but less horrific. It is more bug-like.
Yeah,
think the bug from Men in Black. It really resembles that.
Yeah.
Not CGI.
Yeah, because the puppet thing in the previous movie, like, it's really thin. It was kind of like wispy. Like, it wasn't durable looking. This thing is powerful. It's moving. It's like, and like, I think because the last one, it basically just existed for a few minutes to be killed. But this thing needs to kind of like get around. It's. Well,
I kind of think of it like, and this may be me adding more to it than is there. But it's more like the original one was the, not just the prototype, but it was the more synthetic one. Like, it was literally made in a lab, whereas Martin was made in the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, this is a more organic creation.
Right. More stable, arguably.
Yeah, I think that checks out.
But it also makes sense because now we're going to learn Martin has more of his senses than Seth did.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Yeah, so of course, as soon as the fly bursts out, it attacks Janeway.
She gets got, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Shepard comes in. This guy is infuriating. Like, listen, I'm not a coward. I don't see myself as a coward. I'm ready to fight. But if I know there's a fly, like, being in here, I'm not going to go inside, see everything's fucked up, and stay there. I'm going to go and get a gun. At least try to defend myself. Or just leave.
Yeah,
security guards get paid for this. I don't.
Right. Because he knows that Janeway was in there watching the cocoon. He walks in, Janeway's not there, and there's the remnants of a cocoon. Like, something has come out of it.
Right. Just leave. Just walk away.
But yeah, instead he starts wandering around. He sees a huge puddle of blood on the floor, and then, like, something like drips into it, and he looks up, And there's Janeway upside down, like dead.
Okay, I have a question here. Like, we're going to learn that the corpses in this movie do wonderful, amazing things. They're like almost literally ragdolling. Because somehow he stuck her up on like the ceiling or over a banister. Still there. She doesn't just fall over. We're going to learn that another corpse that we've actually been talking about quite a bit here, like, will get thrown and will just hang, literally arm and leg hanging off the side of a rail. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, that body should have just fallen over.
Yeah. So when he, as soon as he sees dead Janeway, he finally does realize, like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. He starts running out.
Oh no, this man doesn't get the fuck out of here. He goes deeper into the facility later, but he does run past the guard.
Yeah, and he tells the guards, like, there's something wrong in there. You need to go deal with it. Then we cut back to Beth still being interrogated by Bartok, and she's like, I don't know anything, and if I did, I wouldn't tell you, because I don't think you have Martin's best interest at heart. I don't think you're going to help him. I'm not helping you.
Yeah, this is when Martin gets Bartok gets a call. Hey, something's in the facility, and it's moving closer to Bay 17 where you guys are. Mm-hmm. And Bartok's we're going in lockdown, baby.
Yeah.
Don't kill Martin.
Yeah, he lets all the guards know, find him, capture him, do not kill him. So they all head out in different directions. We have two guards who release like a German Shepherd.
Oh no, it's a Rottweiler.
Oh, okay, yeah. But so they set this dog loose, and the dog runs off and finds the fly monster and like kind of corners him. But it's still Martin, and so it just pets the dog.
He just gives the dog head pats.
Yeah,
Come on.
I really like this. Clearly we know Martin loves dogs. Martin's got this relationship. We've kind of got this set in place already as a character trait for him. So right. Martin is still in there.
He could clearly kill this dog if he was in Seth Brundle mode, but this is Martin, so he's like, good boy. Be good. Mm-hmm. And the dog's just like, all right, cool. Whatever, man. I don't feel like dying today.
Yeah, so I think we then see like the guards, following after the dog. They come and they just find the dog just sitting there. It's fine, but the fly monster has gotten away.
So then we cut to Shepard still in the fucking building. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm out, man. I'm in my car, driving home, probably sipping some whiskey to calm my nerves,
But yeah, so the fly monster, jumps down and attacks him. And then we immediately cut to Bartok talking to a security guard that's like, watching on monitors. And the guard's like,
Shepard's being dragged down the hall.
Yeah. We see the monster there. He's dragging a body. Bartok's like, all right, go after him, get him. So we have a security guard following after him and
looks in at Martin at Bay 17 trying to use the badge to get in.
Yeah.
But then Martin's like, he sees the guy and he just chucks Shepard's body at him. The body lands on the rail. That's the one I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, it just like drapes over it like a suit,
I guess the actor was like, listen, I've got to be on this rail. I'm not going to just bend my back over this thing.
And then the fly monster attacks the guard, spits acid all over his face, which just starts melting his face and everything.
This poor son of a bitch doesn't die immediately.
Yeah, he's like, the fly monster gets away then, and we have a bunch of other guards arrive, and like the melted face guy is still just screaming alive as his coworkers see him.
That's rough, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I feel like I'd be like, sorry, bro, pop.
Yeah. So then we go back to Bay 17, and we have Bartok, the asshole security guard, one sort of random scientist guy, and Beth. I think are the only people in that sealed off
Bartok,
area.
The guard, some random scientist guy who's sort of important. He's been in the movie. We don't get a name for him at all.
Yeah,
and like you said, Beth.
And the guard and the scientists are like, you have got to tell them to kill that thing. Like, it's dangerous. And Bartok's like, no, it's living. Like, it's a living subject that's we've been working on this for years. Like, I can't lose it. And then we see the fly monster burst through a vent. We know that Martin knows how to crawl through the air ducts and everything.
Right.
So it bursts out of a vent into that bay. So now he is also in the mix here in this sealed off area that no one else can get in or out.
Right. They're kind of locked in there with him, right?
Yeah.
But the shitty guard tries to shoot him. He gets stathist. Like, Martin spits on his hand, but that fucking hand doesn't dissolve. What has this guy got that the stathist didn't have?
Yeah, like it hurts him and he drops the gun, but he still has a hand.
Right. He shouldn't have the hand. The one guy lost his face by getting some on there. Like, was the guy like, no, I don't want to just walk around with like a prosthetic, or did they not have enough money for the prosthetic?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, and there is another guard in there. Like there's the main guard and then there's one other guard in there because in the commotion, the other guard gets knocked over and he gets crushed by an elevator. Like his head.
Martin throws him into the elevator.
Yeah, I mean, this is just to like have a gross out horror moment. Like we get to see his head get crushed. And so then we have the main guard is now pursuing the fly monster. So this bay area, we have like one sort of big main room, but there are some halls around it, but it's still like a self-contained area.
Yeah.
The guard's sort of like trying to follow down all these dark hallways. He keeps losing the monster, and eventually, the fly jumps down from somewhere and gets him again. And this time, he does melt his hand, right? He does.
This blast. Is the kill.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So he kills him.
We didn't mention that when the guard, the shit asshole guard, went crazy, he did use the stun gun on Beth. That was it. That was our Chekhov stun gun.
Yeah. In the commotion, also the guard is firing. He ends up killing the scientist. Like that's not even Martin. The scientist is shot by the guard.
So we kind of jumped around there, but at this point, there's three people left in here. Well, two people and a giant fly monster. Bartok, Beth, and Martin.
Yeah. And once the main guard gets killed, Bartok takes the gun.
He's like,
and the
fuck
taser.
this.
Yeah. So at this point, now the fly monster appears, and Bartok is like, I have no one to help me. We're sealed in here. I guess I'm going to have to. So he pulls a gun on Martin and is like, threatening him. And finally, like, he just keeps coming. So finally, Bartok shoots the fly monster and it collapses to the ground.
Martin's dead? What?
Yeah. So Bartok goes over, approaches him, and it's like at the very last minute.
Yeah, it's a fake out!
yeah. He attacks him.
Grabs him.
And drags him over to the computer. And like at this point, he's so monstrous he doesn't like have fingers. Like he's got the claw hands and stuff. So he takes.
But he does have fingers. He has Bartok's fingers.
Yeah, he's like holding on to Bartok's wrist, and like he types into the computer with Bartok's hand.
What's the magic word?
Yeah, the magic word is dad.
Do you think this guy felt like an asshole at any point, or was he just like, oh well, shit?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bartok, like, we had like the Bartok and Janeway as dad and mom thing, and Janeway was always just like specimen, I don't care.
Right.
I think part of Bartok did feel like he was Martin's dad. Like he still, was exploiting him, spying on him, all of this, but I think there was a part of him that felt like they had a relationship. So yeah, I'm sure he has had feelings about, seeing that this is the magic word.
Well, this is my opinion, but I feel like as a parent, I'm not a parent, but if you are a parent, I feel like it's very important for you to give, as much of yourself as you can to your kids. And that's what Martin decides Bartok is going to do.
Yep. So he drags Bartok into a pod with him. The fly monster gets in.
Right.
And then
he signals to Beth to initialize this fucker.
Yeah. So again, like the kitten, he nods at Beth. Beth hits the enter key.
Bartok's like, no, don't do this. Don't do this. I'll give you whatever you want.
Yeah. He's begging Beth to stop.
Yeah.
And throughout all of this, all of the pursuit, all the stuff going on in Bay 17, we've also just occasionally had intercut that like some other guards have had like a welding torch trying to cut through the door to get inside. And so right as the teleportation commences, they finally do break the door down, just barely too late. So we see that after the teleportation... Pod 2 opens, and we have this horrible mutated monster thing.
Well, we got two now. There's like two big gummy piles of flesh.
Yeah, they're like sort of glued together. It almost looks like a centipede. Like it's this really long thing, but like there's sort of two halves.
A human centipede? Sorry. Yeah.
So
that's what it looks like, right? Or like two maggots that have kind of conjoined.
Yeah, and so the first half kind of is like standing and it just falls forward, and we see that it is sort of Bartok, like, but then the back half, it looks less alive, like it's just kind of like inert, and like Beth goes over to it, and it starts to like split open, and inside there's Martin. It's kind of
like a gooey Martin, like normal Martin, but he has goo all over him.
Yeah, it feels like it's the beginning of the movie all over again. This is, the gross insectile larva splitting open, and inside is a regular human just covered in slime. So we had baby Martin, and now we have adult Martin, same way. Yeah.
So obviously what has happened here is Martin has given the fly part of himself over to Bartok. Mm-hmm. And now Bartok gets to be the science experiment. He gets to be the specimen.
Yeah, so the last scene we have... The Bartok mutant thing is now in that same specimen area where the dog had been kept.
Right, scientists are just watching now. They're all like, what's going to happen here?
Yeah, and they slide in like a dog dish of food.
It looks like what they fed the dog.
Yeah, and Bartok goes over to try to like eat from the dish, and we see there's a single fly crawling along the rim of the dish, and then we go to credits.
Yep. And his face is so gnarly. Like, it's... How do you even describe it? Like, it's more of a maw?
Yeah, like, it's... At no point did the fly monster that Martin is or the thing that Seth became ever look like this. Like, it is... It most
Well, this looks
closely
more like a maggot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's... The closest thing was the inside-out baboon. It's just, like, goop that is vaguely in the shape of a thing. And yeah, I mean, like, Bartok definitely got what he deserved. Like, it's very much like a come-up-its kind of movie.
Yeah. So the question is, who now runs Bartok Industries? Is it Martin? Like, because I don't know that Bartok put Martin in his will. He's like, this kid's not going to last long enough for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it would be, but like Bartok didn't have any children of his own. Yeah. I can't see him putting Janeway as like his heir. Like, I don't know what his will looked like. Right. If there's a board maybe that just kind of like took it over.
There probably is. Yeah, there's a CEO now for sure.
Yeah. And so we don't really get to find... I mean...
Not that Bartok made good ones.
Right, yeah. But so, yeah, we don't really get like what happens to Martin, but I think it's pretty safe to assume like Beth freeing him from the slime at the end, like they probably get away and have their, like get to live a normal life now.
Or they get black bagged and then burned. But we'll never know.
Right, yeah. But yeah, so this again, it tends to be when you have a sequel like this, obviously Cronenberg did not have a sequel in mind. This was something that was like, oh, this movie did well, we need to make a sequel. Usually that doesn't do well in terms of like story arc. It's like, oh, we got to pick up the pieces of however the last movie, left off.
Like you said, it's a bad sign when all the major stars are like, we're not coming back at all for this. Mm-hmm.
But with all of that being said, like I feel like this does, the one thread worth pursuing from the first movie was Ronnie being pregnant, and we get that. So like I think they did a really great job with what they had, and I think this is a pretty worthy sequel to a movie that you wouldn't expect would get that.
Yeah, and I think probably another thing is that at this time Gina Davis was blowing up, right? She was a star at this point. She wasn't so much a star before The Fly. I think The Fly helped make her a star. Same for Jeff Goldblum, more or less. So they were like, we're a little bit above that, so... Yeah. Or if you don't have the money to pay us for it, we're not going to do it.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, but it was as good as you're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like I said, like the there's a lot of compelling stuff in here, especially the boy and his dog story. Like that really got me. But like they do a good job with the Beth story, and I think they did. they did there's a lot of like parallel scenes from the first movie where we see Martin sort of reliving some of the moments that his dad experienced, but like in, you know, slightly different ways. But it doesn't feel very like really like fan servicey. It's not like, hey, remember that part in the last movie? It's just like, of course he's gonna have the same sort of like developmental arc. So this movie was way more effective than I thought it would be.
Than it had the right to be, even.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it was. Honestly, I do remember having fond memories of this movie. So, and it's also really good to see like the monster be heroic, like be the hero. How interesting is that? We don't get a lot of that. Like even in Psycho Gorman, he was still monstrous, and not really redeemable.
Yeah, and like beyond, like we clearly have we have Martin, or like the fly monster not hurting the dog, and also once they're in Bay 17, there is a part where like the fly monster approaches Beth for a second and does not hurt her. Like it is clear that he is Martin. He just looks like this now. Yeah. He has a fly appearance and fly strength, but you know, mentally he is still Martin. So yeah, he gets to be this monstrous hero, which is like it's just a great sort of revenge ending to the movie. Yeah, we all knew Bartok was a scumbag to begin with. When the moment he started putting himself right under God, it's like, we know where you are, bro. Yeah, awesome. All right, well, anything else we have to say about it? I think that's it. All right, Anthony. Well, let's play it a little straight for next week. Unless something funny happens, we're going to be watching Companion. Yeah. So this is another new release. It came out a month or two ago, I guess, in theaters, but it's out now, available to stream. So we thought it'd be time to get to this one. This is one that I've been like really, really wanting to see and holding off just for the show. So like I cannot wait to get to this movie. Like the initial trailer stuff, it was like, oh, this seems like another sort of like sex bot story, like the well, originally it kind of seemed like it was like an abduction film, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did a good job with the marketing of this. That like I've been intrigued the whole time, but not exactly sure what it was going to be. I think it was like the second trailer that I was like, oh, this sounds like it could be Frankenstein-y. Like we could do this for the show. And yeah, it reminded me a little bit of Ex Machina, a little of I can't remember the name of it, that Megan Fox sex bot movie that we watched a couple months ago. I think the blood drained out of my head. That's why I can't. Is it Subservience? Was that what it was called? Something like that? Yes, it was. So there's something similar there, but also this one seemed like critics were really into it, and I kind of was dodging reading reviews of it, or I obviously wanted to come into it fresh, but it seems like people are liking it, and so I'm real excited to see how it plays out. Yeah, from my understanding, there's a couple twists. So all right, so we'll get to that next week. I'm excited to see where it goes. Absolutely. All right, Anthony, anything else to talk about? I think that's it. Where can they find us, Anthony? So you can find us on all the socials at The Frankencast. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. We're also over on YouTube. And of course, you can find us at patreon.com/thefrankencast, where we're doing all kinds of stuff. We just recently started watching the Creature Commandos animated series. Really, really getting into that. So, so if you want to catch up with the couple episodes of that we've already talked about before we get to the end, now would be a great time to join in over there. It'd be the perfect time. patreon.com/thefrankencast. Absolutely. All right, anything else to say? I think that's it. All right, well, in that case, to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek.